1:30 in the morning, and Bonnie will tell you at 5:30 in the morning, the same morning, he would. And he would say, I think sometimes, Dave, you and I are the only two normal people up here. He wasn't joking. He was saying, because we are the only ones talking about results. Steve Daines, Rick Scott, we've added a few, but they're very few. But that's the perspective I brought in, and the perspective I have now is, this isn't about politics. It's not about another ring on my legacy or my history. This is about saving our state.
Yes.
And that's the only reason I ran for the United States Senate, was to help change the direction. With Donald Trump, we were able to do that, y'all. And we need to do it again now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Next, I think this is a topic of interest for everyone. I don't think a lot of people really realize what all you did after the November 2020 election. And I also want to have you follow that up with what you're proposing to do to finally secure our elections.
I hope y'all have all afternoon. Now look, really, I was in a 9-week runoff. Kelly and I were struggling to try to save the majority in the Senate. We knew that my seat was the one. We knew. That's the one they had poured hundreds of millions of dollars in. But it started before then, Caroline. It actually started in May of 2020. I didn't have a primary. But when I saw that consent decree, I read it, and I knew what it was going to do. And I went to Kemp, and I said, you guys this is outside the law. We can't stand this. He said, no, we don't want to get sued. That's when it really started. And when we saw what happened in November 2020, I won by 90,000 votes. That's 500,000 votes more than Brian Kemp got in 18 against Abrams. And Kemp then had the Trump endorsement. You won't have that this time. So the issue that I saw was that we had a problem, and I wanted it fixed before the January runoff. I wasn't trying to undo. I never got a recount. As a federal officer, I had won my race by 90,000 votes. We just were a few thousand votes short of the 50% rule and got pulled into that runoff, which is what they wanted. But because of that, I didn't get a recount. I didn't get any investigation in my race. But what I was trying to do is not overturn the November election. I wanted to fix two things. That's all we knew about at that point before the January election. I wanted a signature verification fix. Only 9 absentee ballots in DeKalb County were rejected because of bad signatures out of 136,000. 10 out of 147,000 in Fulton County. Guys, that wasn't right. We knew it, and the consent decree allowed that to happen. We wanted that fixed. The second thing was I wanted this rule that people could come in after voting in their home state, come in here within the first 5 weeks of that 9-week runoff, register to vote, and vote in this runoff. That's unconstitutional. 2 votes actually 3 votes for a U.S. senator in the same election year. That's just not right. That could have been fixed. I asked for special session from the governor. He said no. I joined 3 lawsuits to get to those issues I just mentioned. And I know you like this guy, but I even asked I get so frustrated, I asked for the resignation of our Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. I got behind Caroline's lawsuit. They filed suit in the spring and that winter. We got behind that, trying to help raise money and encourage the governor to investigate. In May of 2021, this past May, I saw the evidence, the cell phone evidence of ballot trafficking, ballot harvesting. It was compelling. It was irrefutable. We hear the national media talk about the false Trump claims of fraud, right? Who determined they were false? Not a court of law. Not anywhere in the country have they debunked the accusations of fraud. In Georgia, I can tell you it's irrefutable. Her case is going to prove it. It's under appeal. I'm in another case now. I picked her case up, and I filed personally with one young lady who's 20 years old, and I'm going to find out if I have legal standing. Now, they said that voters don't have legal standing after ruling that the evidence was compelling and they want to unseal the ballot. So what I want to do is this is very simple. Brian Kemp has been Secretary of State for 9 years. 9 years. He was governor for 4. He has not enforced voting law in any of those 13 years. I can prove it. In 16, the rate of rejection of absentee ballots was the same as it was in 2020. They weren't looking at absentee ballot signatures. The problem is, back then it was only 3 or 4%. In 2020, it was 30%. 1.5 million of the 5 million votes were absentee ballots. I lost that vote by 300,000. I won the in-person vote, the 3.5 million that voted in person, by 400,000 votes. You tell me where the fraud was.
Yep. Exactly.
So we now know the evidence is there. It's coming out in civil court, and I just have to say it. Brian Kemp allowed it to happen. He's denied it happened. He's covering it up, and now he's suppressing evidence because he will not investigate. What you're going to see in 2,000 Mules, go to 2000mules.com today. You can see it. You got to do it. Make up your own mind. What I want is this. I want an election law enforcement agency doing nothing but enforcing orders. We don't have that. Me, I want everything to be certified. If our audit, it has to be certified.